presentation because what I'd like to do is take a few minutes to pull the thread on some of the basically the imperatives that General Flynn and Joe laid out in their talk, and then talk to you a little bit about the things that we're doing to get after some of those. Because what you're going to see is the groundwork that he laid when he was the USAPAC commander. We're executing those. So I've got basically 3 really quick points, and then one centering point at the very end about why we do what we do. So the first one is data. And so as we think about data in the Army Material Command, it's critical to everything we're doing. And I only have 15 minutes, so I'm kind of going to speed date through some of these. So first of all, we look at supply chain resilience and the way we manage supply chain through a different lens now. And it all started about 15 months ago when my guys came to me and said, hey, look, we've developed this new application, this new system called Weapons 360, which was born out of a capability that was NIN 360, which was a very geeky way for us to look at individual requisitions in the supply system. And what we were discovering was that our forecasting to our industry partners, one, you can not only see our data, our forecasting sucked, quite frankly. And then we peeled that back and we said, okay, so now that we have a better viewpoint of our supply chain and down to the part level, how are we looking at readiness? And so out of that was born Weapons 360, which is really a fundamental shift in the way that we look at readiness in the Army. And for those of you who have been around, we have this thing called the Total Army Readiness Review, which is looking at the health of our units from a personnel field standpoint, from a training standpoint, from a supply field standpoint, how much equipment they have, and then down to the serviceability of that equipment. But we were always looking backwards in time. At best, it was a 30-day-old snapshot. At worst, it was 60 days old because we were pulling that data after the actual fact. So now we flip that on its head. Weapons 360. We are now using that as the authoritative system in the TAR, and we can look and project forward of what the readiness of those units is going to look like. We also have integrated AI tools into that capability, and we can ask it. Like you asked ChatGPT, hey, I have $50 million to spend on M1 tank maintenance. M1s are probably our biggest consumer for training on the modern battlefield of the capabilities that we provide, man hours and dollars for repair parts. And what we found is that we can do in about 3 minutes what it would take analysts about 6 weeks to do. And the answers that we get now are astounding because we have, all of us who have been doing this for a while, we have a sense of your gut instincts, and we get answers out of the system of that, how to spend that $50 million that are unlike anything that I would have thought. And we can do it, pull it down to the bumper number of the vehicle, and it will give us answers like, go grab this bumper number, this bumper number, this bumper number, because they are consuming the most man hours and the most Class 9 dollars, and then put them through a depot overhaul. We have always approached it from a unit base, and we're going to do a fleet, or a fleet base, and now we're doing that from unit base, as an example. The other one is that I will tell you is that for those of you that are really geeky and are really interested in how we're doing our ERPs, Logistics Modernization Program, GCSS Army, et cetera, we are embarking on a new journey where we are completely going to flip the way we think about enterprise readiness programs, which is really the heart of how we manage. And my term that I talk about is that we consider them in a lot of places, like the Pentagon will say, those are business systems. Not anymore. They are warfighting platforms. Because what we have to have is an integrated ecosystem that allows the soldiers to use in the motor pool what they're going to use in an exercise in the Philippines, or if we're fighting from the Philippines, and we have to have visibility of that data. And so we are cleaning up, we're reducing the complexity of our transactional core, and then we're going to have an ecosystem of applications that are much like your phone, and we've already rolled some of them out. And so that application that can tell you how how to download and can download for you files for advanced manufacturing that we have on on our digital repository, for example. Pull those files down, manufacture far forward, and then move out and do what you need to do from a standpoint of training or combat. That is not the way that we were designed to run as little as 90 days ago, and we were changing that. And so those files will integrate on and off just like your cell phone. And so those applications, we have an application, for example, to change the way that we do property accountability at the motor pool, in the company arms room, et cetera. We also have an application that we're rolling out that will change the way that soldiers do maintenance in the motor pool or far forward, to complete with AI-enabled maintenance capability, which we are now exporting depot-level tasks all the way down to the soldier, with an eye on that very violent, very distributed, and really hard to get to battlefield. We're using the Pacific as the model for that. And then you take the ability to see the data, you take the ability to export depot-level tasks, you take the ability to do advanced manufacturing far forward, and then you throw in the top layer of autonomous delivery and autonomous delivery systems, and then you have a truly groundbreaking change in the way that we do sustainment on the modern battlefield. So that's data. The next one is access and placement. Look, access and placement is everything, and General Flynn talked about the Pacific. What has having commanded the 21st ESC, there's a huge disparity between the two. So the European continent, which the United States Army has always pulled to the European continent, right? Because we love it, right? We love it. It's got, besides having good beer and bratwurst, it's got autobahns, 8 lanes of highways. It's got fuel depots there, a pipeline on the continental European continent. It has the Rhine River Valley, which is heavy manufacturing, the heart of the River Valley. It's got everything we want and that we love. And in the Pacific, and oh, by the way, we have the capability in the continental United States to rapidly reinforce. So let's think about Charleston and the complex of Charleston right now. So Charleston, we have a heavy port. There's an airfield at Charleston Air Force Base, and then you throw on top of that the heavy maintenance facility that we have right in the same, within 20 miles of each other. We have reinforced the European continent since the Russian invasion of Ukraine to the tune of well over 200 shiploads of capability. And we can take that shipload of capability, rapidly marshal what we need at Charleston, put it on a ship, make a quick phone call to American roll-on, roll-off carriers, ARC, and say, hey, look, I'm going to authorize a max steam, and we can have stuff on the European continent in about 10 days. Meanwhile, we can flow the forces out of Charleston Air Force Base, C-17s, wide-body commercial aircraft, and they can land in Ramstein in, depending upon winds, 8 hours. Think about going to the Pacific. As I say in the Pacific, everything is 8 hours. Everything is 8 hours. So you get on a plane in Huntsville, you fly to Hawaii, at least 8 hours. You get on a plane in Hawaii, and you fly to Guam, at least 8 hours. And it just keeps, everything's 8 hours. 35-day sail. And if you have to go through the Panama Canal, you add not only a significant more amount of time, but also cost, because the fees to go through the Panama Canal. So you have this huge disparity. So that's why we made the strategic decision to land-base Army Preposition stocks in Indo-PACOM, and it was led by General Flynn. There was not only the access and placement, because so here's the other thing that Europe has. It has an alliance, and the Schengen zone, right, where goods and services, customs barriers are naturally taken down because of the alliance. In Indo-PACOM, it's almost all bilateral relationships. And it's great to have the embassy and the ambassadors sign an agreement, a flowery agreement that says, hey, we're gonna do this, but hey, that, where the rubber meets the road for my business is at the customs dock. And how long does it take to get stuff through customs? And the only way that you do that is to exercise that muscle memory. So when we place Army pre-positioned stocks in the Philippines, they're there. In Australia, they are now there. And oh, by the way, they are stored in warehouses that were built by the United States Army in the 1940s. And when we place that, and we have to maintain them, not only do we access local workforce, build that sticky power that comes from American dollars, but we also build the capability, but we have to exercise the routine day-to-day business of sustainment. That means customs. That means doing services on vehicles. That means accessing local transportation networks. And that's why that access and placement is so incredibly important. I mean, now the next steps are to exercise it appropriately, not as a rental car fleet, but as a truly embedded in with strategic and operational training objectives, so that we are meeting the objectives of the ASCC commander and the combatant commander of exercising that APS, as well as exercising the muscle movements and the muscle memory in our own organizations of how to issue it rapidly, but also the approval process. Because you can imagine a big bureaucracy has lots of rules about who accesses APS and how they access it, et cetera, et cetera. All those are enabled by access and placement. And lastly, for access and placement is force structure. Look, we are incredibly reliant upon forces, and I'm talking sustainment, that are hard to get to. Compo 2 and Compo 2, Compo 3 units. And I have tons of partners in the National Guard and the Army Reserve. Hell, I started in the National Guard. My brother's still a full-time guardsman in North Carolina. But it is incredibly difficult to get to them in the speed that we need to get to them early on into in a conflict or in that competition moving towards crisis. That is why having access to those units as they are forward, and I did it all the time in the 21st TSC. Had the 7th Mission Support Command that worked for me in the 21st Army Reserve Unit, and we were constantly bringing that capability on and off, active duty, bringing them in early for training to do exercises. When the Russians invaded Ukraine, we brought a bunch of those folks on very quickly to help us provide that deterrent, et cetera, et cetera. We have to do the same thing in the Philippines. We also, in Indo-PACOM, we must address the force balance that we have in the active component, and we're making some investments. A new sustainment brigade in Indo-PACOM. Just keep the book over there, my guy, right? So anyway, so access and placement. The last one is your organic industrial base. The organic industrial base is undergoing a rapid transformation. We are increasingly making critical investments in the OIB, both from a standpoint of advanced robotics, connecting everything with data, and then finally on this one is that we, ANC, have been designated as the lead for the United States Army for advanced manufacturing, and we are rapidly scaling our advanced manufacturing capability, not only from a standpoint of in practice. So, for example, later this month, we will, and getting right to the heart of the critical minerals issue, we are opening and we'll officially cut the ribbon on one of what we believe is 2 brushless motor lines for UAS. We will open one in Tobyhanna that will produce hundreds of thousands of brushless motors. And I say it's one of 2 because we have mapped all the way down to where the magnets are coming from to ensure it's U.S. sourced. It's only one of 2 that we can find in the United States. And those brushless motors will be provided to industry through the UAS marketplace, particularly to the smalls, where we see a lot of the UAS innovation happening at that rapid scale. We're also building other components, carbon fiber-based UAS bodies, wiring harnesses, batteries. Batteries is a big issue, as General Flynn mentioned. We've had our share of counterfeit lithium cells that we've had to work our way through. But part of our Wyoming transformation strategy is not only utilizing the current capacity that we have in the organic industrial base, but totally exploding in our mindset. How do we take that capability and reform it for the future? So, for example, batteries. We know we need batteries, and look, we assemble batteries every day for radios, for radars, etc. So we know how to do this. But what if we take and we have one of our depots that sits on one of the largest deposits of lithium in the United States. Actually, it's one of the largest in the world. And we take and we do a public-private partnership with the company that does the extraction, the separation, and then we have another company that comes in and actually builds a factory that builds battery cells that comes from the lithium that is right under their feet. And then as our part of the deal, we get a portion of the offtake of those batteries that we use then to feed the battery line that we were standing up, which then will feed a portion of the other public-private partnership we have for advanced manufacturing, all in one facility, right? So now we have closed the loop, and we have assured supply, and we have assured demand for industry because we have that routine drumbeat of demand signal that is going out. We're doing all of that across CYB. And then finally, we cannot forget why we're doing this. It's for our soldiers. So that our soldiers can be the most lethal fighting men and women that the world has ever seen. And we're changing the way that they live. We're actually 3D printing barracks. We will cut the ribbon later this month, or actually next week, on the entire Aruba complex, which is a training complex at the JRTC in Fort Polk. We're going to print the entire thing. And we're finishing up printing of 3D printing of barracks at Fort Bliss, Texas. They're open bay troop barracks for the southwest border. We started printing them in February. We'll have troops living in them at the end of August. And a facility that's incredibly energy efficient, is naturally mold resistant, which is really important. And the soldiers like them because I walk through them and talk to the soldiers that live in there. We're also changing the way we feed soldiers. We have blown up the model. We are facing headwinds right now from special interest groups, but we've blown up the model. We've opened 2 different dining facilities, one at Fort Hood and one at Fort Carson. We went from 500 soldiers a day in those dining facilities to well over 3,000 a day. It's a campus-style dining facility. It's what our soldiers deserve. It's just like you will find at the University of Alabama. I know that because it's the same company. So we have turned that into industry and totally reformed the way we do business from a dining facility standpoint. And as a byproduct, not the most important thing, the current burn rate per plate at Fort Carson is 26% less than what we're currently paying in our legacy dining facilities. And so you ask me why and who's coming after this? It's the people who are benefiting from the old model that are coming after this, and we're fighting those headwinds. So that's a quick walk around the world. I think
you did fine, sir.
Okay, but again, hard act to follow. But I'd love to have further conversations for you. Thank you very much.